As a creative aspect, TV is one of the best things that we do as a species. Along with music and film and books, they bring out the best creative of all of us. They entertain and they bring so much joy to many. They invoke emotion and enable us to feel things that we bury sometimes deep down. That's what this podcast is for. Welcome to A Million Little TV Shows. This is what I call the breakdown while I break down. Each week I will go through a different TV show, a different season of that TV show, and different episodes of that show. And I will break down not only emotions, but I will break down stories from my life, and let you know why these TV shows mean so much to me, and why I believe that they are some of the most important shows out there. This podcast is here to highlight a lot of smaller TV shows, or TV shows that don't really get a platform, because we know of a bunch of TV shows that get a multitude of different podcasts. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones, The Office, they've all got several podcasts out there analysing all types of different things. But there's not many out there for the little guy, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. So each week I will go through a different show, different seasons, different episodes, and I will go across all different kinds of genres and different countries to bring you what I believe is some of the best TV out there. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here for this journey. And if you've watched the shows before and you wanted to come here and get an analysis on them and have someone go through them and pick out bits that you might have enjoyed, then I'm glad you are here. If, however, you have never watched the show and you just want to come and have someone talk in your ear about different TV shows, I'm glad you are here. But I hope that it inspires some people to go and seek out these TV shows. They deserve to be watched. They were made with love and care, and they are the same as this podcast, made with love and care. I am your host, Mike, and I will take you through every adventure, every horror, every piece of drama, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now season 11. I cannot believe I'm here, but this is season 11, and this is episode 1 of that season. So I'm excited because it is a new season. I'm getting into some new TV shows, and I really cannot wait to get into this next show because it's one I've had on the list for a long time. It's one that keeps getting pushed back, and it's one that when it came out, everyone was excited about, and I didn't watch it because I was going to wait until this. So I'm finally here. I finally got there. I just found that with everything that came up, this show had to keep getting put back. So I'm here for it now, and I'm excited to watch Kaleidoscope. Now, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before on the pod, and that is I'm going to generate the way that I am actually going to watch the show. So what that means is that I am actually going to use a random number generator just through the internet and pick the colour of the episode that I'm going to watch. Because this wasn't made in the traditional way, you apparently can watch any episode and it will make sense as it goes along, and you will have more uncovered as you watch. So it's going to be very interesting. Now, the colour of the episodes are red, yellow, pink, green, orange, purple, blue and white. And so I'm just going to pick a colour at random through a random colour generator, and I'm going to watch the episode. So let's get into this because I'm really excited about it. This is Kaleidoscope, the mini-series, and I don't know what episodes I'm going to be covering, but there's going to be 4 of them. And the first episode that I'm going to be watching is Yellow. And that is 6 weeks before the heist. And so I think I've looked on here really because this is the episode that basically introduces all the characters. Now, obviously I haven't seen the other episodes, so I don't know if that is the case for each one. But you get kind of a good grasp on who everyone is and what their skill set is, and also the job that they're trying to actually do. We also see the conflicts inside the group, and so let's get into it. We meet Leo, played by Giancarlo Esposito, and instantly he's the villain. That's my initial instinct. I've got to put that out there because, I mean, the man has played Moff Gideon, he's played Gus Fring, he played the Magic Mirror in Once Upon a Time, and he's always the villain. Like, I don't think I've seen anything with him in it that he hasn't been the villain. So I'm always going to have him as the villain first. But he seems to just be waking up, getting ready for his day, and getting on with a few things around the house. We then meet Hannah, played by Tati Gabrielle. And she meets a woman, she starts flirting with her, she manages to strike up a relationship with this woman, and then we actually see that she's using some sort of tech to manipulate this woman. What she actually does is she creates a small enough webcam and attaches it to the side of a book. She then puts the dust cover over the book and manages to spy on this woman. Now, this woman is part of a big security deposit box company where rich billionaires hold their most valuable assets. And essentially, Hannah is the head of digital security at another firm, and she is essentially going to break in and take something very valuable of a client that they wish to bring on board at a different company called SLS. We then meet Roger Salas, played by Rufus Sewell, and he is the one who actually employs Hannah. He is the COO of SLS, and basically he has tasked her to rob this rich client that they're trying to bring on board, a man named Stefan Thiel. They are trying to gain his business because he is about to bring into the country $7 billion worth of bearer bonds. I'm never sure how to pronounce that word. But essentially that is the task. He is bringing all this money into the country, and Roger wants his business. He's trying to ensure that Stefan knows that Roger has a huge security team and is able to look after this guy's money. He's got all types of impenetrable vaults, and Roger thinks that his company can keep Stefan's money secure. He proves this by letting Hannah show how she actually broke into this guy's vault. She then presents him with several gold bars that she took from that vault and said, if I was a lot stronger, you'd be a lot poorer, because she's managed to take as many as she possibly could. We then meet Stan, played by Peter Mark Kendall, and he seems a little bit put upon. He actually runs a butcher's, and at this point, when we actually meet him, we don't know why he'd be any use to any of these people. It seems that he's a smuggler, and we see this when he's actually been able to smuggle some cheese into the country and is able to sell it to a local merchant. He and Leo, it seems, go way back, and when Leo tells him about this job that he's got on, this $7 billion job, he informs him that he's already got somebody on the inside. And so straight away your mind goes to Hannah. We know that she's a security expert, and we know that she isn't shy about robbing people. So we can only assume at this point that it is Hannah. Leo essentially tells Stan the plan, and they say, we're going to have to get some people on board. They continue the recruiting, and they end up recruiting Ava, played by Paz Vega, who is a lawyer but also a weapons expert. They bring in Judy, played by Rosalind Elbay, and she is an explosive expert. However, it seems that Stan and her have had a previous relationship. She, however, has brought in her own husband, Bob, played by Jai Courtney, and he is a safecracker. However, he is a loose gun. He constantly talks people down, and he constantly tries to be a big shot. They also bring in RJ Acosta, who is played by Jordan Mendoza, and he is going to be the getaway driver. So that's the crew. But like I've said, there are issues. There are going to be huge issues between all of them, and the very first issue is the fact that they're going to need money. To pull off a heist like this, they're going to need around about 300 grand, and none of them have that kind of money on them. Even when Bob starts talking about how to raise money, he essentially says you can get 20 or 30 grand, I think it is, by claiming slips and falls at a certain place in town. However, that's not even going to get near the total that they need, and they even laugh him off. They need money instantly, and they need to get this job done and sorted. And so they all start thinking about how they're going to do it. They begin coming up with ideas, but each one of them gets shot down. And then once again, it's Bob who offers the actual solution. He tells them that there is a diamond district in the city. And then what they can do is they can actually go down there and create such a disturbance that they are actually able to rob a few of the stores that are down there and get away scot-free. And so they come up with a plan. They decide to use smoke grenades, and everything seems to be going pretty well. They pull it off really well. The only problem was that they've got Bob with them. Like I've said, Bob is in it for himself. It doesn't really matter about the $7 billion that he's potentially got coming. He sees something shiny and he has to take it. And so once Leo has made the call that everyone needs to move out, of course, Bob is the one that doesn't. He stands there trying to get this final piece from this glass case, and of course, he ends up getting injured in the meantime. Someone comes along, they shoot him, and he ends up with a bullet lodged in his hand. The rest of the crew come along, they take these guys out, and they manage to grab Bob and run off. Eventually they get back to base and they start to patch Bob up, but not one of them is an actual medic, and it would mean bringing someone else in on the crew to help with medical advice, and it's not something they're willing to do right now. And you can't really go dropping him off at a hospital with a gunshot wound. Questions will be asked. The only person who doesn't join them on the job is obviously Hannah. She is working inside SLS so that she can actually report back to her father. It turns out that Leo is the one who is her father. But even though her father knows about everything that's going on inside this company, she's worried because if this all blows up in their faces, at the minute she has a decent job. She knows that she can actually stay employed at this place, and it would be beneficial for her to stay where she is. And so she has to know that her father is 100% when it comes to this job, that he is going to pull it off and that they can all retire properly. She knows she can cover her tracks, but she also knows that if they don't, then she could be on the chopping block for this, and she could end up in jail. But currently it is her job just to keep an eye on the place and just make sure that when they actually come for this heist, she can get them in the system. It turns out, however, that Hannah is actually pregnant, and so her life's going to be flipped upside down if things don't go the right way. And so she has more jeopardy now going into this. Okay, so I'm going to break down each episode because I think that is the best way to do it. So what I've really enjoyed about this episode so far is the fact that it's been very strategic. It's been very in-depth, and they've been learning who they can trust and who they can't trust, and how the control systems within the actual group are going to work. Obviously, the outlier is probably going to be Bob because he's a dick, in all fairness. He's one of these alpha males that thinks he knows it all and just wants to smash and burn and just take whatever he wants. And the rest of the crew are all kind of meek and mild, apart from probably Leo, who obviously being an older statesman just wants to be like, do it our way, properly, and we can get through this okay. But you keep fucking around, you're going to find out. Whereas everyone else is just backing off and leaving Bob to be just this dickhead. But hopefully, as we go along, Bob will learn his place in this crew and they'll come out of it with a decent payout. But yeah, I'm not sure about how the colour system is currently working. It's interesting that obviously yellow would serve as a warning or a caution. And so maybe that is something that will pick up as it goes along, that the different colours will actually symbolise something interesting about the actual episode. And this was full of caution. They're being very coy, they're planning things out, and they're trying to make sure that everything works. And so I think it's best that we start getting into the other episodes. I'm really excited about what's coming next. And the next episode is Pink. And that is 6 months after the heist. And this episode is the very emotional episode, and I suppose that's why it is pink, because it seems to be about love and sacrifice and hardship and everything that's gone on. So, as I've said, it is 6 months after the actual heist. It would seem that the heist was a success, but just not for the crew. The bearer bonds have gone, but nobody knows where. But the people know that $7 billion worth of bearer bonds have gone missing. And so we start to catch up with our cast of characters. Bob is the first one we see, and straight away we notice that he is in a bad way. It seems like he may have had an emergency tracheotomy, because he has a really bad scar right in the middle of his throat. Like someone has tried to push a pen into it so that he could continue breathing. But obviously without seeing anything else in the series so far, I have no other context for it. He also, throughout the episode, has a lot of trouble speaking, and generally just uses his phone and hands people earphones or just lets it play out through his phone so that they can hear exactly what he has to say to them. But at the minute, he is trying to find out where Leo's gone. He also wants to find out the location of Stan and Judy. It would seem that Stan and Judy have run off together, and obviously they've had a relationship prior to this, and it seems that that relationship has sparked back up again. But Bob is not willing to let go of any of it. He wants his wife back. He wants to kill Stan, but he also wants to kill Leo and get his money, because nobody knows where the money's gone, but everyone is suspicious of everyone else. And then we see Leo. Leo is in a really bad way. It seems whatever happened to him on the day of the heist or after the heist, he is not in a good place. Whatever's happened to him, it means that he's took damage at some point. He's shaking, his leg isn't working properly, and he walks with a cane now. And also his speech is pretty bad. It may be that he's had a stroke. We're not 100% sure. Ava is with him, and it seems that they have some sort of relationship. They've been friends for a long time, but it seems that there may be something else there between them. But again, they are living out in this house in the middle of the country, but all they're trying to do is hide. It seems like they don't have any money either. Judy and Stan seem to be hauled up in some sort of motel, and they too have no money whatsoever. They're just trying to scramble money together and trying to get hold of Leo to try and find out what's going on when it comes to their share of this bounty that they're meant to have got. However, what happened on that day is unclear right now, but it would seem that the FBI has everything that they need to prosecute these guys. They know all the names involved, and they have also got hold of Roger. Now, it seems that both Roger and Leo have two aliases. Leo is now called Ray, and Roger is actually named Graham Davis, and seems to be someone who has a criminal past. I'm going to continue calling him Roger throughout, and I'm going to continue calling Leo Leo, but it would seem that these two have known each other for a long time. The episode mostly focuses on Bob. It's mainly Bob's story throughout this because he wants to go and get his wife back. He gets a location on Leo and decides to hire two guys and go and head out there. However, once he gets out there, he's a little bit comical because one of the guys he's actually hired thinks he's all that. When he approaches the house, he realises straight away that he's not because, well, he instantly gets shot and killed because he's going up against Ava, and Ava is the weapons expert, let's not forget. As Ava is showing off her skills, she is literally going around the house picking up different weapons throughout the episode. She's got weapons stashed everywhere, and they look like general, normal, everyday household objects, including a silenced gun where she literally takes off the lampshade as if it's a light. She's also got another one where it's strapped to the inside of a table and is spray painted to look like part of that table, so you wouldn't even know it was there. However, while she's distracted with one of the other men that Bob has brought with him, Bob sneaks up behind her and smacks her in the head. They tie her up and they ask where Leo is. She won't answer, and so Bob goes looking around the house. Eventually he opens a cupboard and gets a cleaver put in his chest. Turns out Ava's mother is there. She slams the cleaver into his chest and it doesn't really seem to affect him. He seemed hopped up on adrenaline and ends up taking the mother into the other room to be with her daughter. Again, they ask where Leo is, and eventually they bring him out. He has around about $100,000 left from the previous job and goes to hand it over to Bob. He essentially says, look, just take it and go. Bob wants one thing though. He wants to know where his wife and Stan are, because he knows if anyone, Stan would contact Leo. Especially since Leo was the leader and Leo would be the one sorting the money out. Bob eventually rings him and he sets up a meeting with Stan. Stan has been trying to get hold of him for all this time, and now Leo tells him he wants to meet him. They arrange a meeting, but instead it's going to be Bob who's going to be there, and Leo gets tied up and left with Bob's other henchmen. And so Bob heads to this meeting. Once he gets there, however, because Bob called the FBI agent who is on the case, instead of actually calling, when Bob gets there, the FBI surround him. There's a shootout and they take him down. Leo and Ava, however, manage to escape their bonds because they've been tied up with tape, but before they can get anywhere, the guy that's meant to be looking after them manages to shoot the old woman and then shoot Ava. Leo goes absolutely crazy and manages to kill the other guy, but Ava ends up dead, and it seems that she has been the one who's been sort of a nursemaid to Leo all this time. Leo leaves and he tries to call his daughter, Hannah. Hannah is the only one who seems to be unscathed out of all of this, and she's now got her child. She's also been looking after Ava's dogs. She seems to be living a good life somewhere out near the coast, and when she picks up to Leo, he is distraught because obviously he's lost his long-term friend and he's almost lost his life as well. Plus the fact that this massive mission that they had hasn't gone to plan and he couldn't keep his daughter out of this. Stan and Judy, however, seem to be just hiding away. Like I said, they're in some what looks to be like a dodgy hotel or a dodgy motel, and they're just literally living day by day. They keep trying to think of ways to get out of the situation that they're in because they're running out of money pretty quickly, and this is why they've been trying to get hold of Leo. Eventually, Judy remembers that she has something that Bob gave her, and it was the thing that Bob got shot in the hand for when they did the diamond heist in the Yellow episode. And she gives this diamond encrusted bracelet to Stan, and he goes to try and pawn it. But obviously it gets flagged by the FBI. And that is how they end up on the trail of Stan and Judy. So they're shocked when Bob turns up, but they know that they have to take him down because he was part of the crew. Judy and Stan, however, are literally just up the road, and they hear commotion going on the beach where Bob gets gunned down. Judy heads over to what would have been Bob's car. She looks in and she finds $100,000 in the back. The $100,000 that was given to him by Leo. She looks back at Stan, but Stan doesn't see her. And we're unsure what happens to Judy, whether she just leaves with the money and leaves Stan to where he is, or goes back to him. And then we see Leo go and visit Roger. Roger has been put away for 20 years, and it may have been something to do with his involvement in this crime, but also the fact that he has been impersonating someone to try and get up the ladder at this SLS. And so at the end of the Pink episode, we have Roger in jail, Leo badly injured, Ava dead, Judy maybe on the run, Stan just trying to get by, Bob is now dead, Hannah has her young child and seems to be living a decent life, and the only other person that I didn't talk about was RJ, and it seems that something has happened to RJ, but we're unsure as to what yet. But earlier on in the episode, when Judy actually mentions RJ's name, you can see a pang of guilt on her face, as if she misses him. So we're seeing the fact that all characters in this have now ended up with a much heavier journey. From Yellow, it seemed very optimistic and that they could probably pull this off, and that, okay, Bob was going to be an issue, but everything else seemed fine. They kind of knew where they were going, but something got in the way. Something clogged the wheels. And now there's total disarray. The episode is very emotional. Bob obviously loses his wife and is regretful of that and wants to try and get her back and is downright adamant that she's going to get her back. She seems to be set up with Stan now, but after finding that money, we don't know what's going to happen with those two. Then you've got Leo, who loses Ava and tries to speak to his daughter, but is just crestfallen. He doesn't know what to do next. And even Hannah, after all these months, she finally hears from her dad, and probably the last time she saw him, something bad had gone on, because obviously he has been in a bad way. He's not walking right. There's a speech impediment there. There is issues with him shaking. He even at one point during the episode has a seizure, and Ava has to save him. So we need to find out what happened throughout all of that. And I'm sure, very sure, that answers will come. But let's find out what episode's next. And so, the next episode is Green, which is 7 years before the heist. And of course, this being set 7 years in the past means that we're getting the origin story of these characters. How they came to be together, and why this is so significant to everyone. But mostly we get why this is so important to Leo, or at this point in his life, he is Ray. We start in prison, and Leo is carving something. Throughout each episode, there seems to be some significance around the colour that the episode is named after. There is always something within the episode, or several things in the episode that show the hue of that colour. And this carving that he seems to be doing is made out of a green, what looks to be soap. However, he's doing these carvings because he is currently in prison. He has been there for the last 17 years and seems to be no closer to getting out anytime soon. We're unsure as to why he's in there, but as the episode goes on, we start to understand that he was betrayed by someone, and by the end of the episode we realise that it was Roger Salas that actually was the one who actually got him locked up, because they used to be partners together. We then see Judy. She is preparing some what look like drug-infused lollipops, as well as an ingenious thing that she does with some SIM cards. She is going into prison that day to visit with her boyfriend being Stan. Seems at this point, Bob isn't on the scene yet. She visits Stan, and when she meets him for the first time, she holds out her hands. He puts his hands in hers, and she runs her fingers through his hands. As she does, all her nails that she's got on pop off, because they're actually SIM cards. And so all he's got to do is take those SIM cards out and redistribute them around the prison for the people who've bought them. It's a genius plan. And she's also paying off the guards who keep checking her bags for lollipops. But once the initial guard has actually been paid off, nobody cares. And so she is supplying her boyfriend with both SIM cards and drugs. And he is paying his way through his sentence with those particular items. However, that doesn't go down well with one of the white supremacists who's actually in the prison. And he ends up kicking the shit out of Stan. Before he can do any real lasting damage though, Leo walks in. He essentially tells the guy to back off and that he'll come after him if he doesn't. And it seems that Leo has taken Stan under his wing. After all, they're both cellmates and seem to get on pretty well. Leo, however, is working in the prison in the actual prison shop, as in, it's like a car garage, and they're just fixing dents, cleaning them, doing whatever they need to do. But obviously doing it all for free because it's being paid for by the prison. But while he's working on a car, he actually starts to shake. Now, I didn't want to say this in the Pink episode, but when he was shaking, it did seem a little bit like the symptoms of Parkinson's. And so now it's confirmed. He goes and sees a doctor. The doctor tells him that he has Parkinson's and that he is basically on a timeline now. We're not sure when he's going to die, but he will die eventually. And it'll be sooner rather than later. And it's at this point that he realises he's not getting any younger and he needs to get out. He needs to get out and he needs to see his daughter and he needs to go and live the rest of his life. And so he asks Stan if Stan wants to come with him. He asks Stan to get him some supplies as well because Stan is the man to ask. The next time we see Judy, she comes in and tells Stan that she can't actually get any more SIM cards. The guy that has actually been doing the SIM cards, he's quit his job. And so there is no longer that supply. However, here it's where we meet Bob for the first time. She brings Bob in and he explains the situation that he is going to help out, but essentially he's going to do it his way, which obviously riles Stan up because he knows now that Judy is potentially going to end up with this guy because they're going to be spending a lot of time together. And this guy's such a brute and a dick that even if Judy doesn't want to go with him, there's a potential there that he could force his way in. So Stan now needs to get out as well. He's only got 6 months on his sentence left to do, and he knows that he could wait this out, but by the time he gets out, his girl might not be there anymore. And so he decides to break out with Leo. They come up with a plan and begin to execute it, which involves them both being in the sick bay as the rest of the prison, or at least the prisoners, all start to trip out on magic mushrooms that Stan has added to their food in the morning. So those two are in the sick bay, and due to some other clever techniques, i.e. getting a copy of the key to get out, they manage to make it to the actual door to the outside of the prison. But as they're trying to get out this final door, it turns out that it's not going to be as easy, especially for Stan. And so he runs back into the prison and tells the guard that he's lost. He doesn't know what he's doing and he needs some help. The officer in charge manages to take him back to his cell, and when he looks back, Leo is gone. Leo heads back to his home, and the first place that he goes is to Ava's. He tells her he needs to come up with a plan to get away from all of this. He tells her about the fact that he's ill as well, and that he doesn't know how long he's got. He just wants to plan something big, just a one-off hit, and then they can just go. But first of all, he needs to see his daughter. Ava thinks it's a bad idea, but Leo isn't bothered what she thinks. He needs to see her and he goes off. However, when he gets there, she's shocked to see him. She was just about to leave work and she turns back into the building after seeing him and runs into the arms of someone that Leo knew well way back when. Of course, I'm talking about Roger, who he would have known under the name of Graham. And instantly, he now needs revenge. He goes back to Ava and tells her exactly what he's seen. She advises that he leaves and just forgets all about this, but he tells her, no, I need to do this. I need to get revenge on this guy because this guy has cost me 17 years of my life. He cost me everything. And so with Ava's help, Leo manages to destroy Ray's identity and make it look like he's been killed in a car crash so that Leo can actually live on and take revenge on Roger. He knows that Stan's going to get out soon and that he can work with him on this. And so that's the part that we see in the yellow episode, when Leo goes to see Stan. It must be the first time that they've seen each other since prison. And by that time, Judy and Bob are together, and by the end of the green episode, we see how Hannah comes on board with this. Her father sends her a letter and he tells her basically that he was sorry for everything that happened, but the only reason it did happen was because of Roger. And now he is going to get revenge on Roger for everything that happened. and the amount of time that he lost. And we see that potentially Hannah is going to be in on this with them. So she is going to be his eyes on the ground. So this episode really lays the groundwork for everything that's going to come forward after this. And it gives us the motivation as to why Leo's doing this. And it also gives us a motivation as to why Stan would do this. They're both for love, but of different people and different kinds of love. One is a father and daughter, and the other is a romantic one. Ava ends up doing this because she obviously feels something for Leo as well. We're unsure of the motivations towards why she's doing this when it comes to Judy, but when it comes to Bob, we know it's all about the money. He just wants that big payday, but is reckless in the way that he tries to go about it. And so, let's see which episode we land on next. And the next episode is to be White. Now that is the day of the heist. So we're going to find out exactly what happened in that heist, why everyone was so beat up afterwards, and what actually went down. So let's get into it. And so the crew set about their plan. They take out the guards while Judy goes into the sewer system. It seems like it's a hell of a night to be out in the actual street right now. It seems like there's some sort of storm going on. Either way, it is pissing it down with rain. And so you'd think going into a storm drain at that point wouldn't be the best idea. However, it seems that it's blocked off somehow. And it's her job as the explosive expert to set some charges. But at this particular moment in time, I have no idea why. Because I have no idea what the whole mechanics are of this whole safety deposit box down in the basement. So I'm literally going in blind. The rest of the crew, apart from RJ, obviously he's just the getaway driver, head down into the vault. They've already taken out some security guards and they start to work. During the first part of the episode, we actually see them preparing for this and getting all the equipment together. And we see for some reason they have bees with them. And this is fully explained once they get to the actual vault. On the vault, the security system is basically like a huge reader. As a person walks through this tube to actually get to the end where the facial recognition is, there is a sensor that tracks them the whole way. So if it picks up any movement, it will alert people that someone is down there until the system is deactivated. And generally it would be deactivated by someone like Roger. But the reason that the bees are there is that because of all the movement around them, they could literally cause a distraction for the system, so it wouldn't even recognise that there was someone in there because it would just be firing off on all cylinders. And so Leo, dressed in, well, God knows what he was dressed in. It looked one of the weirdest outfits I've ever seen. But in this sort of skin-tight suit, he walks through the tunnel, and while he's in there, he is actually surrounded by bees. He gets to the end, and he also has a mask on, which seems to be in the shape of Roger's face. You can briefly make the outline of it as you were looking at it, but all the focal points that this piece of software will pick up that it is Roger who is stood in front of it. And so the vault is opened. However, they still have one problem. Because the vault is now opened, the temperatures start to change inside. And until they deactivate that, they can't actually walk inside. And that is what they're waiting on Judy for. They start to push and push and push, and Judy is a perfectionist and she doesn't want to leave before she gets the right amount of explosives where she needs them. She knows how long she has and she knows that she can do it in the time frame that she's got, but everyone is pushing for her to actually finish up. Eventually she does, but at this point she's taken her earpiece out and RJ has come to find her. He tells her that Ava is going to start blowing the place up and she needs to get out of this tunnel as soon as possible, because as soon as she does, a bunch of water is going to start rushing down that pipe and they're going to be swept away. By this point, Judy has already got everything in place and she knows she's good enough to go. But as she turns around, she knocks into RJ, and it means that the rest of the actual explosives falls on the floor. She knows they have to get out of there quickly, and with this water on rushing, it means as soon as the water hits, the place is going to go up. So they scramble out of there, and thankfully, RJ is still with them. We know, obviously, that something happens to RJ, but at the minute, we're unsure as what. But for this instance, he manages to survive. We also know that Judy blames herself for whatever it was. So again, if he was swept away, she would have blamed herself, but thankfully, he is okay. They get up to the surface, RJ goes back to his point, and Judy goes inside. By this point, everyone has gone downstairs and they are now opening the vaults, but the problem is the water that's coming in is way too much, and it is basically flooding the basement that they're in. So they've got to move quickly. As they do, of course, Bob, with his bad hand, cannot now open the safe dual-handed. And so Stan is helping him out. But of course, he's antagonizing him at the same time. Eventually, they get the first safe open and they find the bearer bonds and they start shipping them out. Basically, there is a little lift inside the vault and they are lifting it up. And Judy is at the top and she is picking up each canister and putting it on a tray. And she is going to be the one who ends up shipping this out to RJ so he can start loading it onto the truck. Throughout the whole heist, they keep showing that they open the lid, there's bearer bonds in there, they put it on the lift, they take it up, bearer bonds are in there again. They just keep showing you that this is still in there. So they're not picking up fake stuff. At this point, Roger is at home. He doesn't know what's going on. He keeps calling to Hannah and checking that everything is okay. Especially when the temperature sensor is going off. He checks and she says everything's fine. After a while, however, we see that the FBI are actually staking out the building. It seems that they have been in contact with Ava somehow. Again, at this point, I don't know how. And they get a text from Ava. She says it's on the 59th floor. I can assume that it's only where the heist is being portrayed to be. But again, I'm unsure. But she's directing the FBI to the wrong place on purpose so that they can eventually get away. They carry on and they see that the FBI has entered the building, but when Leo sees that they aren't coming anywhere near them, that they're going up instead of down, he doesn't fret. He carries on and tells them that maybe they could just do one more box, even though they've got enough money now. As they begin to open the next box, Bob decides that he's had enough. He tells them he's fucking sick of this and he walks out. He says, this isn't what I came for. I came for the money upstairs and I'm gone. Judy has already put the money in the lift and that started to go up to RJ. However, RJ gets a little bit skittish when the lift doesn't actually turn up. The lift is actually stopped at the post room floor and Hannah is actually in the building. She takes all the boxes, she takes all the bearer bonds out and she just scatters a few around inside the actual cabinets and then sends it to RJ. And at this point we can only assume that Leo is part of this. Bob heads upstairs and activates the alarm system. He and Judy start to walk out and Ava, Leo and Stan actually nearly get caught up downstairs. Leo manages to wedge this grate that's coming across them open and actually manages to get out just in time. Bob and Judy, however, at this point have got to the van and they're having an argument with RJ. RJ doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to hand over the keys because, well, he wants to wait for everyone. Everyone's not there. Of course, Bob just doesn't give a shit and beats him up. RJ seems to be suffering, but eventually he stands up and he ends up shooting Bob. Not in the throat though, just in the arse. But just as he goes to shoot Bob again, all of a sudden a gunshot is heard and he falls to the ground. Judy is there and she's obviously killed him. This is why she feels so guilty about his death. She's the one who brought it upon him. They bundle him into a dumpster and just as they're about to leave, Stan turns up. He's been instructed by Leo to actually head upstairs and they will meet him up there. As soon as Bob sees him, he starts shooting and Stan runs off. Bob runs off after him and when they're just about to start fighting in the street, Judy turns up behind Bob and chokes him out with a tire iron. At this point, she thinks he's dead and her and Stan run off together. Leo tells Ava to go. He heads off upstairs and heads towards Roger's office. He finds a key inside there and goes back down to the safe. It seems that his vengeance isn't done and he wants to make sure that Roger knows it was him. There's obviously issues in their past as to why, but right now we're still unsure of those as well. We keep getting flashbacks, but without any real context. By this point, however, the FBI have been upstairs to this 59th floor where they saw what looked like gunshots. They've managed to uncover the actual secrets that are there and the fact that this was all basically a light show. Of course, Ava is a weapons expert and she has essentially tricked them. They've gone up looking for a gunfight and there is nothing there really, except like a few flashbangs. However, and this is one of the stupider decisions, along with the fact that Leo has decided to get revenge. He's just stolen nearly $7 billion from Roger and proven that his infallible system is actually fallible, but he wants to rub salt in the wound, so that's what he's currently doing. The FBI start to hear noises coming from behind a fake wall. When they knock through it, they find where they're actually stopping the feed going to the security cameras. Essentially, they've set up a loop on the security cameras so that it looks like everything's fine. They detach the loop, and of course, straight away, Roger can see what is going on. He sees that he's being robbed, and he heads over to his office. The FBI then go downstairs after they know that they've been stung, and this is where they find Ava. Ava is told that Teresa, again, someone we don't know yet, maybe it could be her mother, who we saw in the last episode, is actually going to be sent back. So again, we can assume, since Ava is of a Latino heritage, that potentially this could be who is going to be sent back. They say that they're going to send Teresa back, and Ava just drives off. As she does, she drives into the street and she finds the downed Bob. She drives round him and just drives off. Bob at this point wakes up and he does his own tracheotomy. And so Leo is the only one left in the building. He heads back downstairs, he heads into the safe, and he dives into the water. He opens a special safe that they found while they were down there with this special key of Roger's, and he places a blue necklace inside as if saying, "I got here first." And at that point the screen fades to white and we have no context for this blue diamond. I would assume comes up in the blue episode. But again, there's a lot of things in this episode that I don't have context for, but can kind of read around. But again, I still need that context. But the thing is, it's an all-encompassing story. It's so cleverly done that you don't need the context for the episode. You can puzzle things together as you go, and each episode is so well done and so well put together that it just makes sense. You know they're going for a heist. You know that there's things that need to be put in place for that heist. Okay, how do they know all of this information? Well, I assume it's going to get picked up in a different episode, but I'm sure we will find that out. There are 2 or 3 episodes that are before the heist now, so we know that shit's going to go down. I'm blown away by this TV show. Like, it's so well done and it's incredible to watch. You don't feel lost throughout the plot, even though you know that there are things you should probably know by this point. Like, a couple of times in this episode, I sat and watched it and thought, have I done the wrong thing watching the white one now? Should I have watched that heist at the end so that all of it comes together? But then I thought, well, no, because the problem with this, well, not the problem, but the idea behind this is that you can watch any of them in any order and it will all make sense, and it still makes sense to me. I don't feel lost by it, and I like the experiment behind it. I think it's very clever. If you just do 8 good episodes of TV, like mini movies, it doesn't matter the order you do them in, they will make sense. And I suppose there's several different ways to actually look at the way that it's put together and how you could watch it. Now, originally I thought maybe, doing the rainbow song, red, yellow, pink, green, orange, purple, blue, and then probably white at the end, which would have made sense. Other ways to look at it are not the release order, but like some places that I've seen, like Wikipedia, have them in order, a certain order, but it's not in the timeline order. So you could watch it by the timeline order as well. So, I mean, that's 3 ways I could have watched it already. And so, yeah, it's interesting to watch the episode and see how it all fits together. It's very, very clever. And this feels like a heist. The other episodes have rarely felt this intense. You can feel the heart racing a little bit as you're watching it. I'm one of those kind of people that I've always got to have something happening with my fingers. I'm always, clicking my nail or whatever I'm doing. I'm always picking at something. I'm always doing something. And I noticed that I was doing that a lot more. The anxiety was there. The anticipation was there for what was going to happen. And when TV does that, when it makes you feel that way, when it makes you feel emotional, or when it makes you feel anxious, or when it makes you feel a part of the plot, even though you're literally just sat on your couch, or in my case, I'm sat on my floor, I find that incredible. And this has done so many different things each episode. It's made you sympathise for certain characters. It's made you feel empathy for people. It's made you want them to succeed, but at times you know that they're bad people and you kind of think, well, do I really want them to? For me, right now, in the world we live in, fuck yeah, I want them to succeed. But I want that wealth distributed equally. I don't want it just going to one person. I want it so that everyone can benefit. When we've got so many billionaires in the world right now, and I think one of them nearly made $500 billion recently, his net worth, and you all know which one that is. Like, it sickens me that you've got wars going on and people in Africa dying still. I mean, because that's never going away. And you've got people in my own country right now, like poor people that are being lied to by certain politicians, that he will make things better for them, and I know that he fucking won't. He's a con artist, very much like a different con artist who's in the White House right now. It sickens me. It sickens me looking at these people and hearing their voices talk about bullshit. But hey, that's not what this podcast is about. I'm here to entertain myself with TV and entertain you, hopefully, with my voice and talking about the TV that I've watched, and you can remember it and enjoy it. But yeah, sometimes you just need somewhere to rant. Anyway, I'm done for today. I cannot wait to cover the last 4 episodes of this because it's been excellent so far. So we have red, purple, blue, and orange left, and I think each one of them is going to be so much fun. But hope you're all doing well out there. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It all helps the podcast, and I'm loving doing this, and I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So thank you for listening. I hope you're all doing well, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. As always, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you could really help me and the podcast by giving a like, share, subscribe on all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. As an independent podcaster, this will just help me exponentially when it comes to actually doing more things with this podcast. I truly do enjoy this, and I absolutely love revisiting these TV shows with you guys. So any engagement from you is always welcome, and I will try and listen to all of you when you give suggestions or just tell me what you think about the podcast. But once again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye.